Back in 2017, I stumbled across an animated teaser for a movie called Mafka, The Forest Song. It had a whopping 50 million views on YouTube and featured this mystical forest girl with a flower crown and plant powers. Kinda gave me Elsa vibes in a way, but I was intrigued. Visually, the teaser came across as very competent. Plus, this was an original animated film hailing from Ukraine. I tried my best to keep up to date with the developments of this movie, but things took a turn for the worse in February of 2022, when Ukraine was invaded by Russia. I thought that this would be a conclusion of the production for Mafka, since the studio making the movie was located in Kiev, a city that was under siege by the Russian military. Creating an animated movie is hard enough already, but doing so while being shelled by artillery? Good lord. But lo and behold, the Ukrainian studio, Animograd, refused to give up, and even while under fire, continued to push for the completion of their film. In March of 2023, the movie was released in Ukraine and became the highest-grossing hit in their country. Needless to say, the completion of this film at all is a miracle. It already had a tough production before the invasion, but the team behind Mafka truly had a righteous cause, and were determined to finish this movie that was a love letter to their country. And as much as I want to automatically love this movie for its persistence and its production alone, I gotta ask a tough question. Is the movie any good?
Oh my god!
It's complicated. There's definitely merit here, but there are faults in this movie that are hard to ignore. I said earlier that this character reminded me of the plant version of Elsa. And yeah, imagine that, but with the energy of a DeviantArt fanfic, where the character just effortlessly overcomes any hardships.
You are the most amazingly beautiful demon I have ever seen. Your eyes.
I am not a demon. I am
My original character?
Mavka, the soul of the forest.
Well,
But before we get any further into it, I want to give a quick shout out to this video's sponsor, Aura.
Have you ever Googled yourself and were shocked to see your personal information exposed on one of those public listing websites? I have, though some of this info is completely inaccurate. For example, I am not a multimillionaire, as this website claims. I am in fact a billionaire. So get your facts right, all right? Once I sell these Beanie Babies, I'm set for life. But real talk, Googling yourself and seeing what pops up can be a very unnerving experience. You got data brokers who are making a fortune selling your information to robocallers, spammers, and others who want to learn more about you, like where you live.
Ew!
By the way, whenever those checkouts in real life ask me for my phone number, I'm like, no. I'm not giving my information. Plus, I'm not donating to charity so you all can get a tax write-off.
Donate to the children's fund? Why? What have children ever done for me?
I get the tax write-off, not you. But that is where this video sponsor has your back. Aura. Aura is a data broker's worst nightmare, as they identify said data brokers exposing your information and submit opt-out requests on your behalf. Brokers are legally required to remove your info if you ask them, but they make it super hard to do so. Like they comply with the law, but they drag out the process and are complete jerks about it. So why not let Aura handle that for you? You can try Aura free for 2 weeks using my link. And it also does so much more to protect you and your family from online threats you can't see. Also, it's really easy to set up, so you don't have to download several different apps to get things like parental controls, antivirus, a VPN, password management, identity theft insurance, and more. You get all of that through Aura at one affordable price. So let Aura do the hard work of keeping you safe online, so you can focus on other tasks with peace of mind. Again, online privacy is only going to become more important as time goes on. Are you going to let people continue to exploit and profit off your private information? Nah, screw that. Instead, put a stop to it and go to aura.com/Saberspark to start your 2-week free trial. Hit up the link in the description and go check out Aura today.
All right, back to the video. Now, when it comes to animation subject matter, fables, fairy tales, and folklore reign supreme. Top-tier animation studios like Disney, DreamWorks, and Studio Ghibli have all used some form of these classic stories in their roster of film. And hey, it's easy to see why. They're widely known across many cultures and many countries. They're accessible and easy to translate into different languages. And yeah, often in the public domain, and studios don't have to pay anyone any royalties to write about them. And let's be honest, that's probably the biggest advantage right there. But when it comes to European fables, there's more than the Brothers Grimm or Aesop to be inspired by. And one of those stories is the Ukrainian folklore tale of Mafka. The story originates from a 3-act poetic play by writer Lesia Ukrainka. She based the story on her childhood, growing up near the forest bordering Zaporizhia and Polozhinyad. Lezhnya loved to explore them and looked for mysterious maiden spirits called Mavka. The project consumed all of her attention, as detailed in a letter to her sister Olha shortly after finishing it in October 1911. Quote, "I wrote it during a very short period of time, 10 to 12 days, and I could not help writing. My mood was invincible, but after it, I was sick and devastated." End quote. Traditional Mavka are temptress figures like sirens, intent on seducing and killing men, often by tickling them to death. The film itself even references this directly, but as an inside joke.
People say that behind the dark mountain, the water nymphs and tree spirits can tickle you to death. You're laughing, and then... bleh.
The play itself is more of a direct tragic romance, a star-crossed lover's tale of the human Lukash and the gentle forest spirit Mafka. The humans and forest spirits warn them both about keeping their distance, but Lukash bonds with Mafka over flute music. But their love is not meant to be, with Mafka being deemed not being domestic enough for life in the village, and Lukash being stolen away by the widow Kaliniya, a more suitable partner approved by his mother. Mavka's mentor, Lisovic, punishes Lukash by turning him into a wolf, but Mavka sacrifices her own body to save him. This frightens Lukash as he runs away, with Mavka returning to the forest and turning herself into a willow tree. Kaliniya tries to bully Lukash into chopping the tree down, but he refuses. Mavka delivers an impassioned monologue to Lukash, claiming her love for him is eternal. Lukash tries to release her from the tree by playing his flute, but she disappears, leaving him alone. The play is widely heralded as one of the most important fantasy stories in Ukrainian history. It has been adapted into a number of other productions, including ballet performances, operas, a video game, and other films. Which brings us to the present. With the help of a ton of foreign grants and an environmentally conscious message, a high-budget CGI animated version of Mafka released earlier this year. To really capture the magic and significance to Ukrainian culture was no small undertaking. So, did the filmmakers succeed?
Don't be shy. Come closer.
We'll get into it. Mafka, the forest song, took 7 years from concept to finished production, with more than a few road bumps on the way. According to a Zakzig.net article, work on the film started in late 2015 as a joint venture between Animograd, an animation studio based out of Kiev, and Film.ua, the largest film distribution and production company in Eastern Europe. The producers sought out to, quote, create a new work, changing both the plot and the tragic tone of the original, while preserving the subtlety, lyricism, beauty, and fairy tale of the play. End quote. After entering a contest with the Ukrainian State Film Agency, Mafka won first place, earning 30% of its final production budget. Definitely a massive help, but still not enough to get them off the ground. They had to think bigger. 2017 was a year of tremendous progress and movement for the production. Like, I'm genuinely blown away by the work ethic of the production team. It is seriously impressive. They worked tirelessly to get Mafka accepted into a number of production summits around the world. Animograd needed to successfully pitch Mafka to investors and production partners to secure enough funding to make their vision a reality. By October 2017, they had a teaser trailer ready for Annecy, the biggest animation festival in the world, and cartoon movie in Bordeaux. The pressure was on for Animograd to successfully wow the public. As quoted in an interview with AWN, project creative producer Anna Lisivia shared these fears of getting a good reception for the trailer, especially in Ukraine. They weren't just representing a potential feature film. They were representing the animation industry of their own country and wanted to provide the highest quality product possible. Quote, We have already done a European presentation of the teaser at Annecy and got a lot of positive feedback from the international audience, but showing it here at home is completely different. Goosebumps during the screening are not just a result of Animagrad's work, this is the voice of blood. We all needed a project like Mafka, end quote. As a proof of concept, the first teaser is pretty intriguing, with a mystical atmosphere. Again, I really dig this original design. The original character designs for Mafka alone has a very mysterious, striking look to it, complete with her vibrant orange eyes and teal-colored hair, like if Cherry from the Studio Killers went to Burning Man. The development team was so enthusiastic during the pitch presentation that they actually had a series of traditional outfits professionally made to wear during their speeches. In a production article on Mavka's new selection, costume designer Olga Novstroska described her process for making the clothing as authentic as possible. Quote, "I use ornaments and flowers developed directly for the film. My main task as a costume designer is to showcase our colorful culture and its connection with nature through the looks of the protagonist. Mavka is the soul of the forest, an ancient mythical creature, and this is the main idea." End quote. This brand of ecological messaging notably resonated with one big supporter, the World Wildlife Fund. In October of 2017, the producers had gained the support of the largest wildlife conservation group on Earth. They believe Mafka could be an important vessel for spreading awareness against the destructive logging and amber extraction industries in Ukrainian forests, specifically in the northern Polossia region. Now, the most obvious change observed during the production is how different Mafka appears in the teaser trailer relative to her final design. She's got a spookier, almost porcelain doll kind of look. Now, I wouldn't say they yassified her exactly, but she does look a lot more a lot more marketable. Marketable, that's the word.
That's kind of huge news!
So, okay, definitely some major changes going on, but things are looking promising, right? What could possibly go wrong?
It was unprovoked, but this is what Russian President Vladimir Putin unleashed on Ukraine as the sun came up this morning.
Yeah, so like I said at the start of the video, the studio behind Mafka had quite the unfortunate development during the production for this movie. Those who don't know, there has been an on-again, off-again conflict between Russia and Ukraine since the early 2010s. And in early 2022, things escalated in a tremendous and highly destructive way when Russia invaded parts of Ukraine, which of course affected everyday life for Ukraine citizens. During February 2022, Animagrad and their fellow citizens endured bombing attacks on Kiev by Russian forces. The ensuing chaos and terror from the attacks paralyzed Animagrad, bringing the production to a complete standstill. Producer Irina Kostyuk was interviewed by MSN about the chaotic first week of the war, saying, quote, "When the full-scale invasion starts, nothing works, everything freezes. We don't know what is going on. We are still sitting in the basements. There are all these planes and helicopters above our houses. Missiles are flying over the studio. We don't know even if the studio will continue to exist." End quote. After deliberating for 10 days, the staff decided they had to keep going and finish the film, with a few morbid adaptations like converting bomb shelters and back rooms into workspaces. Production finished in October 2022, miraculously only a few weeks after their initial deadline. But even with the finished film, Animagrad struggled to find enough theaters still in operation to screen Mafka. By delaying the release to March 2023, their patience and hard work paid off. On its premiere, Mafka had become a popular symbolic figure for the resilient spirit of the Ukrainian people. But real quick though, I can't help but point this out. In the update video from Animagrad about weathering the Russian invasion and proclaiming their resolve, they had this segment in their upload where they showed fan art of Mafka and how the movie already has fans across the world. Now this is true, but one of these art pieces is definitely not like the others. With so many factors working against them, it's wild Mafka got finished in the first place. So, what did we end up with? Well, let's find out. Mafka begins with a storybook opening, explaining the history of discord between the humans and the spirits, set in this Ukrainian forest. A sawmill owner ventures past the Dark Mountain into the forest to obtain a cure for his sick infant daughter. Wanting to help, the High Guardian spirit named Lesh provides him with a healing drop of medicine from a magical tree called the Source of Life. However, the sawmill owner betrays Lesh and returns the following day with a posse, wanting the Source of Life for themselves. A fight breaks out, with Lesh calling on ancient powers from the supreme spirits to end the battle in a fiery inferno.
All humans who had trespassed behind the Dark Mountain vanished.
The village is destroyed, and the spirits banish humans from returning to the forest again. We then flash forward to the early 1900s, or so I'm guessing, based on the old-timey technology shown and as a fun nod to the play's original release. The forest has been restored, becoming a safe haven for animals and plants alike. Mafka is one of the nymphs protecting the wildlife, including her sidekick, Swampy the kitty frog. She's kind and caring, but is frequently criticized by the other nymphs for being too nice. One morning, Lesh arranges a gathering with the other spirits as he is retiring from his guardian position due to old age. The supreme spirits will pick another successor at the heart of the forest during a ceremony at midnight. The nymphs are dismissive of Mafka, with Ondina, the most outspoken of them, constantly bad-mouthing her abilities in front of everyone else.
But really, anyone can become the guardian.
You mean like even you? No, Mavka. You may be the sweet, pure soul of the forest, but for this job, you are just way too nice.
No, I'm not.
I'll have you know, I stubbed my toe last week while watering my spice garden, and I only cried for 20 minutes.
Meanwhile, there's trouble a-brewing in the nearby village. An optimistic young musician named Lucas wants to go on tour with his band to the big city, but his uncle had fallen gravely ill. To cure him, Lucas needs enough money to get the right medicine, but is flat broke. Definitely sounds like a musician to me. As luck would have it, a solution literally rolls into town. The sawmill owner's daughter, Kylina, arrives with Froll, her aggressively flamboyant manservant, and her cronies Eric and Derek.
Aren't you all good and ready to become rich and happy?
No, I actually really dig the contrast of showing how flashy their outfits are relative to the traditional clothing of the other characters. Not really sure why they made Froll a weird combination of Pete Wentz from Fall Out Boy and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, though.
How positively tragic.
She's looking to reopen the old sawmill and expand their lumber business with the villagers as employees. But everyone in town is highly superstitious. They believe in the legends, and nobody is willing to venture past the Dark Mountain to help her. Nobody except Lucas. Out of other options, he makes a deal with Kylina. She'll give him enough money for the medicine he needs in exchange for finding a specific tree inside the forest. He agrees, traveling with the brothers, making sure that everything goes according to plan. The brothers quickly ditch him, though, after Lucas interferes with them trying to hurt some bison. Lost in the woods, Lucas starts playing some music on his flute, attracting the attention of Mafka and her noisy spirit friend, Hush.
Ah! The humans! I'll watch him. You go get the nymphs.
Hush is immediately distrustful of Lucas, getting into a pummeling match with him until Mafka intervenes, using her powers to stop their fighting. Mafka slowly warms up to Lucas, with his flute music awakening her powers, making her face and hands glow. Plus, he's good with animals.
Aw, it's so cute how much he hates me.
Okay, fine, he's good with dogs. Lucas is a dog person. Nothing wrong with that. Mafka trusts him and offers to give Lucas the cure itself. No leaves required in exchange for a flute performance. Hush wants to dump Lucas back at the cave entrance, but Mafka outlogics him into keeping things on the down low. During their travels, we get a pop song montage of Mafka and Lucas exploring together, enjoying the beauty of the forest, and, oh my gosh, holding hands? Oh, so scandalous. Suddenly, Lesh approaches the group in a clearing. Hush panics, hiding Lucas in a bush, re-emerging in a janky wood spirit costume as Schmuckus, Hush's distant cousin. Schmuckus? I'm pretty sure it's Schmuckus. We'll call him Schmuckus. For some reason, probably due to old age or being 4 hours away from retirement and just not caring anymore, Lesh falls for it and welcomes him into the ceremony. Meanwhile, Eric and Derek get lost in a dark, secluded section of the woods, with the other nymphs hot on their trail, ready to attack. Now, I'm pretty sure Derek is kind of like into that, though. He's got a thing for tall, dark, amphibious ladies, and I don't blame him.
Don't be shy. Come closer.
They make it back to Kalina's family mansion in shambles, with no sign of the tree. In a rage, Kalina retreats to the bathroom and takes a potion bottle out of a fancy purple chest. This potion contains a magic serum that heals wounds and reverses aging, but she just used the last drop of it. With limited time to spare, Kalina is determined to find Lucas and the tree herself. Back in the heart of the forest, the spirits gather together that evening for the guardian ceremony. Lesh summons the supreme spirits of nature for their guidance, with Mafka being chosen for the role. She gets a cool forest guardian glow-up as Lesh implores her to take the new position seriously by keeping humans out of their realm. Shmukus defends her from the criticisms of the other spirits, but Undina removes his costume, with Hush and Mafka helping Lucas escape. He's pursued by the rest of these spirits in a lengthy chase scene, but is saved in the nick of time by Mafka. Lucas is sweet, but not the most observant kind of guy, or coordinated, or intelligent, or endearing. Okay, moving on. Mafka sends him off on a lynx, I guess, or bobcat, with the cure. Lucas doesn't want to leave before playing music for her, but he has no choice and takes off. Undina angrily confronts Mafka about helping Lucas escape, seeing her a liability to their safety.
This human is no different than all the others. He will betray you. And when he does, we will all pay the price.
Lucas makes it back to the village and gives the medicine to his uncle. Lucas doesn't know exactly how the medicine works, but Leo miraculously saves their dog from being hit by a hammer and immediately looks decades younger. However, Kalina saw him return and sent Froll to spy on them. He breaks into the cottage, stealing the leaf and map Lucas left behind. Without a specific destination marked on it, Kalina plans on following him on his next trip into the forest.
He probably wants to keep the source to himself.
Mafka wants to meet up with Lucas again, eager to return his lost flute as an excuse. But she grapples with ignoring her responsibilities as the forest guardian, as she feels like she's falling in love with him. Her impulses win out, with Mafka venturing into the village disguised as a peasant woman. Lucas is ecstatic, giving her a handsome pendant, and invites her to their local fair in town. They have a nice but clearly very Tangled-inspired dance scene done to the traditional Ukrainian music, with his bandmates playing on stage.
Those are my friends playing.
Mafka is ready to head back to the forest, but not before Lucas plays a song for her on his flute, conveniently at the same time as Kalina and her goons arrive. The music awakens Mafka's forest spirit, reverting her hair and eye color back to normal. Kalina manipulates the townsfolk, claiming she's a dangerous demon and should be killed instantly, like right now, on the spot.
He's come to kill our lovely ones and destroy our food crops.
They knock out Lucas and have Mafka surrounded until Les shows up to rescue her. Very convenient. Kalina finds Mafka's pendant and rallies the villagers to help her attack the forest in retaliation. All she needs is the location from Lucas. He wakes up trapped in a cellar, mocked by Kalina and the brothers. She'll only let him out if he marks where the source of life is in the forest. Kalina threatens to kill Mavka unless Lucas provides the location on the map. He does so reluctantly, only to find out he's been tricked by her, with Froll in a disguise.
Let Mavka go.
Sure thing, ding-a-ling.
Oh, Lucas, smooch, smooch, swoon.
She locks him in the cellar and floods it somehow, leaving Lucas to die. Please enjoy your water damage. Back in the forest, Mafka is clearly shaken up, but doesn't believe Lesh and his suspicions of her being tricked by the villagers. He claims her relentless optimism has gotten her into serious trouble. Lesh has a heart-to-heart with Mafka, sharing the complete story with the sawmill owner. After the betrayal, Lesh called upon the supreme spirits of nature to enact revenge. It was a risky process, making a deal to lose the majority of his magical powers for such an outcome.
And may all those I love forgive me. He did.
By the end of the battle, he burned down their entire village and killed many. Things get really weird and messy with the pacing at the third act, so try to bear with me here, okay? So, Kalina unveils a large tank-like machine called the Forest Killer, designed to eradicate everything in its path. They set off for the forest with an army of disgruntled villagers, with smaller spirits warning Mafka they're all in danger. The spirits look on helplessly as the mob forces their way into the forest. Mafka harnesses her powers to disrupt the chaos. Wind to put out the flames, and plans to stop the machine from moving further. She talks to Kalina, telling her the forest magic was responsible for saving her when she was a baby. Kalina explains the sawmill owner never had a daughter, but he had a wife who lied about having a child. She used the drop to keep herself young and beautiful for ages, and is intent on capitalizing off of the source of life for herself. Hence her replacing the portrait earlier in the film, reflecting how she wants to be seen now.
You know nothing about crow's feet, turkey neck, back fat. You'll never get old and saggy and shriveled.
Fed up with her lack of remorse, Mafka tries to destroy the machine, but is tricked by Kalina again. She lies to her, saying Lucas told her where it was located for an easy payout because she's just so nice. Meanwhile, Lucas is still trapped in the cellar. As luck would have it, his dog Dot spots him and brings back reinforcements with Swampy and Hush. They break into the mansion with Swampy and Dot going after Lucas. Meanwhile, Hush has an impromptu sword fight with Frol. This scene gets under my skin so much, I swear. Why send the dog and Kitty Frog when you have a perfectly good tree man thing with arms and hands who can open the damn door? So many weird choices were made.
Go get Schmookus, and I'll deal with this one.
In the forest, Mafka is struggling with handling the pain of the forest, between the burning trees and fighting between the villagers against the spirits. She's grown so weak that she can't harness any of her powers to fight back. After seeing Lesh hold off the deadly machine, Mafka calls upon the same spirit he used to end the original battle, even though Lesh implores her to stop. The supreme spirit of Rock appears, making a deal with her for his power of rage. She agrees, willing to die to save the forest.
And you, the spark will cost you your life.
Mafka equips the power of rage and turns into, Sunset Shimmer from the first Equestria Girls My Little Pony spin-off movie? You know, fine, whatever. And envelops the villagers into a fiery tornado. Mafka chases them back into town, destroying everything in her path. Mafka chases them back into town, destroying everything in her path. She's unresponsive to anyone until Lucas tries playing his flute for her. Villagers and spirits alike join in, singing together to get through to her.
We should all do this together.
The singing stops Mafka's rage, but she appears to be dead. Mafka has an out-of-body experience, feeling nothingness for the first time. The supreme spirit of Rock admits they chose the right guardian for the job, but that she can't go back on her deal, claiming she's doomed to exist there for all eternity.
You have to pay the promised price and remain in the nothingness forever, for eternity.
Until she somehow isn't?
I will live on forever, because now my heart is full of something that will never die.
Mafka has a revelation and realizes she will live on forever through the power of love or something. I get that she's a forest guardian, but is Mafka really that overpowered that she can defy a literal god who gave her the powers in the first place and will herself back to life just because? Oh, thank God, we're almost done. Lucas cries a single tear, magically bringing Mafka back to life. The entire town politely watches them make out, with the nymphs finally accepting Mafka as their guardian. Lesh and Leo make peace, ending the feud between humans and spirits for good.
Peace, friend.
Now that we got the synopsis out of the way, what did I think of it? Unfortunately, Mafka is pretty basic. From the get-go, you'll know exactly where it's heading, and most of these story beats are obvious from miles away. But hey, that predictability does not always matter if the characters and world building are strong enough on their own to hold your attention, right? Are those aspects unique and interesting? Well, not really. No.
Get her!
Don't get me wrong, I appreciate what they're trying to do with this movie. The animation is pretty damn impressive for a smaller studio and really showcases the talent of Animagrad's artist. The overall creative direction of Mafka seemed like they wanted to do a homegrown Disney-level fantasy epic, one that the people of Ukraine could call their own. On that note, I think they succeeded on a technical level, as there's a lot of gorgeous backgrounds, inventive character designs, and lighting effects that really gives Mafka a cozy vibe. What's less successful is the quality of the screenplay and character arcs that are actively working against them. When it comes to story, Mafka is surprisingly complicated to follow. This is mostly due to their weird habit of each scene transitioning awkwardly, often using fade to black.
And where is this peasant loser?
There's a lack of creativity with the editing that's jarring to the experience and impacts the flow of the narrative a lot more than you'd think. The script itself is also very dense. You get the impression they wanted to cram in a lot of detail and set pieces to make the world feel more expansive. In some ways, it works, but mostly it feels like they just put in everything but the kitchen sink. I actually wish there was even more of an incorporation of Ukrainian culture into the film to really make it stand out. It's definitely there with some of the music and most of the costumes, but Mafka could have pushed it a bit further to give the presentation a bolder, more authentic flair. In particular, some of these songs chosen have a general Eurobeat pop quality, which isn't an inherently bad choice, but it feels totally out of place for the time period. Contrast this with something like the films of Cartoon Saloon, where a strong use of Irish culture and folklore is integral to the quality of their storytelling. The use of historic legends in films like The Secret of Kells or Wolfwalker permeates everything. It makes the characters and the world feel distinct and inviting. We understand the emotional stakes of what they're going through while still being totally immersed in a unique fantasy world. Instead, Mafka as a finished movie feels very safe. Too safe even. There's a ton of great appeal visually, but story-wise, it's a derivative and basic mess. Now maybe I'm just a cynical and jaded American who has seen it all, but I can't help it. Mafka kept reminding me of other movies who have already done what they tried to do and did it better the first time. Watching this film is like taking chunks out of Ferngully, Frozen, Moana, and Pocahontas, and then chunking them into a blender with heaping spoonfuls of pacing issues, a complicated story, and uninteresting characters. Now, I'm not trying to be too mean here, I promise, but if you've seen as many animated films as I have, it's impossible not to draw the same parallels. The opening is right out of Moana, down to the green spiral pattern on the tree and the destruction of the forest, which is pretty similar to the destruction of Te Fiti. The narrator goes unidentified and disappears for the rest of the film.
Many years have passed since that day.
Now, it's not a massive deal breaker, but this alone seems like a lost opportunity to use Mafka, explaining it as proof of her responsibility to protect the forest. Hell, Lesh the tree guardian doesn't get to explain the legend, and he lived through it. Mafka as a character reads more as a generic Disney princess type, with little in the way of her own personality. She's just kind. She's just nice. Mafka doesn't have any extremes or quirks to make her more relatable to an audience. Put her in any other character lineup and she's just another Mafka Sue. Effortlessly beautiful, kind, beloved by all the animals, and boring.
Stop it right now!
Well, he started it!
The other spirits do criticize her for being too nice, but there's no real payoff for it. And when she starts hulking out in the town during the finale, it's too little, too late. It's not a real personality shift or any lasting change. so we know she's gonna make it out of the Purgatory District with no real issues. Mafka is too passive to be engaging, and easily tricked by untrustworthy people, which gets annoying to watch. The worst case of this happens near the end of the film, during her confrontation with Kalina. Mafka finds out that there was no infant daughter, that Kalina herself made her husband, the sawmill owner, get a cure from Lesh and used it as a youth potion. She was willing to let him and the other villagers die for her own vanity, and perpetuated that lie for decades to get sympathy for herself. But suddenly, when Kalina lies to Mafka about Lucas ditching her for an easy payout, Mafka believes her on the spot? Like, what? Why wouldn't she have immediately called her bluff and utilized the same anger-based weather powers we saw earlier to punish Kalina? It would have been a great callback and the perfect emotional breaking point, making her more willing to risk her own life to end the fight using the spirit's powers. You know, that kind of thing. It's missing those subtle little touches that reward you for paying attention.
And one more thing. Lucas told me it was almost too easy to fool you. Because you're just so nice.
How about our male lead though? Well, Lucas does not fare much better. He's a dumb boy with a flute, plain and simple. He's sweet and just a real stupid guy. But all I see is Kristoff, Prince Eric, and Flynn Rider mashed together with none of the personality traits that made those guys interesting. Lucas and Mafka are both innocent and naive characters, but the chemistry isn't really there, so the romance between them is forced. Yeah, they stare at each other a bunch, but the grand resolution of the film doesn't feel earned. That ending alone is pretty cringeworthy, like something out of a fan fiction, especially with this exchange.
Your music is the real magic.
No. The only magic humans have is love.
They only have a superficial connection related to the most baseline observations of one another, playing the flute and protecting the forest. That's about all they know about each other. There's no conversations of them truly bonding or being emotionally vulnerable enough to leave an impact on the audience. As for Kalina, just no notes. 10 out of 10. Please step on me.
Much better now.
Yeah, lovely portrait.
Okay. She's definitely a bit similar to Mother Gothel from Tangled, but come on. Being willing to destroy an entire forest ecosystem with a gigantic murderous tractor to get the Fountain of Youth? Now that's what I call a gilf boss, which is what she is technically. Then there's the sidekicks. Both of the animal characters, Swampy and Dot, are pretty forgettable. They make cute plushies, but nothing really to write home about. Now, I wasn't crazy about Kalina's manservant Frol either, minus his sick emo haircut. Something about his extreme stereotypical behavior was way too campy to really take seriously.
Oh!
Fro!
Oh my god, this is so old-fashioned.
Hush was appropriately named because, man, I cannot wait for him to shut up. He's too annoying to be funny, with most of his jokes or comic relief scenes used as obvious padding for time, which the movie definitely doesn't need.
So I would be Hush, the first kicker out of humans? Oh, I like that very much.
Now, I haven't really expanded on this next point in the review so far, because I wanted to give the plot details more structure to go over everything with you guys. But my god, the editing in Mafka is jarring. It's downright awful, actually. Every scene transition is a lazy fade in, fade out to black, and the scenes really don't blend into one another. There are so many awkward cuts used during Mafka that it sadly makes the previous scenes lose all momentum. So while it has a pretty reasonable 90-minute runtime, the editing makes the film feel infinitely longer. Like just when I thought things were starting to wrap up, there was still somehow another hour to go. Come on, guys. I know where you're headed with this. Let's wrap it up. It feels like the movie is too preoccupied remembering where all the other characters left off than just allowing a scene to actually finish. Mafka is frustrating to watch because you're actively playing mental catch-up rather than being engaged in a more linear plot, making it drag a lot more than necessary. Now, I hope I don't sound too harsh because Mafka is mostly fine. Like, it's far from the worst animated movies I've ever seen. Like that goes to far worse things on my channel that I've already talked about. There's a ton of potential here to make Mafka something truly exceptional. But the most obvious changes to me are simplifying the story and expanding on the personality of the characters. It's like they're 10 degrees off with all the pieces there, but it just couldn't coalesce properly at the end. But hey, I'm just one person, and obviously my criticisms aren't the gospel truth. That being said, how did Mafka perform commercially around the world? Domestically, Mafka is the highest grossing film in Ukrainian history. It premiered locally on March 2nd, 2023, and even beat out Avatar 2 in sheer ticket sales. Yeah, suck it, James Cameron. This is Mafka, bitch. We clowning this motherfucker. Better take your sensitive ass back to Pandora. For 10 weeks, Mafka stayed at the top of the Ukrainian box office, selling over 1.1 million tickets. Throughout the course of 2023, Mafka has been steadily released in foreign markets, so far grossing nearly 12 million American dollars. And frankly, good for them. They are working their butts off to build Mafka into a lasting Ukrainian brand, and I have to respect the hustle on that one. For an animated film to get finished and succeed commercially during such an emotionally fraught period as wartime is an achievement in itself. The runaway success of Mafka was so positive that the creators are actively working on expanding the universe, the Mafka-verse, if you will. According to a Variety article by Marta Balga, Animograd is currently planning on creating a 12-episode series set immediately after the original battle between Lesh and the humans. Personally, I see this as a step in the right direction for Mafka as a property. Hopefully, the TV series will provide some solid opportunities for narrowing down storylines and expanding the characters in a positive way. Urnia, one of the producers, went on explaining, quote, "When we started developing the film 8 years ago, it was always supposed to be a big IP. We called it the Mafka Universe, thinking about a multi-platform, cross-media project. Even before its release, we have done many licensing and merchandise deals, which is unprecedented in our market." End quote. And yeah, they're not kidding. The marketing and distribution push for Mafka is genuinely impressive. The film has a thriving and highly active online presence on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, where they post announcements, concept art, clips, and merch launches regularly. By the end of this year, Mafka will be released in over 80 countries, so keep an eye out to see it in theaters near you. Here in the States and in Canada, Shout Factory is behind the digital and DVD release, so if you're intrigued, give it a watch and judge the film for yourself. All jokes aside though, folks, you have to hand it to Animograd as a studio for believing in their project so deeply that they wouldn't let anything stop them from finishing. I have a ton of respect for the hustle and work ethic of their team and how much they want Mafka to succeed. They maintain the passion and drive it takes to get a message out and kept the faith to see it through. That alone to me is worth celebrating.